Welcome to this special edition of Vantage. No prizes for guessing where we are. Behind me is one of the most recognizable structures in the world, the Eiffel Tower in Paris. No time to take in the view though. A, because it's freezing and we can barely stand here. And B, because today was a busy day in the French capital. It was the moving day of the Global AI Summit. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the gathering. He spoke about the opportunities and risks linked to artificial intelligence. We'll bring you the key highlights of his address. Also on the show, what makes the India-France relationship so special? Is it just the bromance between the two leaders or is there more to it? Plus a special report on Marseille, a French port town in the southern part of the country. That is where Prime Minister Modi is heading next, and we will tell you why. Also bring you a list of our proposals for the AI Summit, what we think world leaders should have focused on. Also stay tuned for a ground report from Paris. We explored India's UPI payments across the city. Over in the US, Elon Musk is trying to buy OpenAI and Donald Trump is asking American companies to pay bribes abroad. All this and more lined up. The headlines first.
Seoul says North Korea has given Russia 200 long-range artillery pieces. Earlier, South Korea had said that Pyongyang sent more than 10,000 troops to help Russia in its war against Ukraine, a claim which has been backed by Kyiv and Washington. Last year, Russia and North Korea signed a mutual defense clause when President Putin visited Pyongyang. Bangladesh's opposition says that the government aims to hold polls by December. The announcement came from the party of former Prime Minister Khaleda Zia after some of its leaders held a meeting with Muhammad Yunus, the chief advisor to the interim government. Since last August, a caretaker government has been in charge in the South Asian nation. Fresh fighting erupts in the Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo. Rwanda-backed M23 fighters clash with the Congolese army in the South Kivu province. This comes after a lull of 2 days. In recent months, the M23 rebels have seized sizable territory in the mineral-rich eastern part of the country. Italian police arrest almost 150 people in a major operation against the Sicilian mafia in Palermo. More than 1,200 officers were involved in the Dawn raids, which took place in areas under the grip of the powerful Cosa Nostra clans. This was reportedly the biggest operation against them since 1984. And the World Health Organization launches a new platform to provide cost-free cancer medicines for children living in low and middle-income countries. The first medicines will be delivered to Mongolia and Uzbekistan. The project's pilot phase also includes shipments to Ecuador, Jordan, Nepal and Zambia.
We need to invest in AI-driven future.
It's day 2 of the Artificial Intelligence Summit and clearly the moving day here. We've seen a steady stream of leaders and CEOs coming in. They're here for a lofty mission to shape the future of artificial intelligence. As we've said, India and France are co-chairing this year. So Prime Minister Modi and President Macron walked in together. Also in the building were a number of stakeholders like Google CEO Sundar Pichai, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, leaders of the European Union, US Vice President J.D. Vance and China's Vice Premier. Modi and Macron interacted briefly with some of them. After that, it was time for remarks. Prime Minister Modi laid out India's AI vision. He talked about regulation and trust. But he also flagged the risks, like the inherent bias in AI models and the need for sustainable AI training. Prime Minister Modi also said India stands ready to host the next AI summit. Listen to this.
Friend, loss of jobs is AI's most feared disruption. But history has shown that work does not disappear due to technology. Its nature changes and new types of jobs are created. There is a need for collective global efforts to establish governance and standards that uphold our shared values, address risks, and build trust. Governance is also about ensuring access to all, especially in the global south. It is where the capabilities are most lacking.
We'll talk more about the summit, but for now let's focus on the duo of the hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Emmanuel Macron. Their bromance is undeniable. We saw proof of that yesterday. The Indian Prime Minister arrived in the evening. He got a ceremonial welcome at the airport. Later in the night, he was hosted at the presidential Élysée Palace. Macron greeted Modi on the red carpet. They exchanged handshakes and warm hugs. After that, they headed inside for dinner. Vice President J.D. Vance, US Vice President Vance, was also there. This was Modi's first interaction with Trump's deputy. Take a look at this.
And after that, we'll go together for the dinner.
It's a beautiful place. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
It's great to be here.
Come somebody wants.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to see you.
Great victory.
Yes.
And that was all yesterday. Today, the focus turned to the AI summit. Both Modi and Macron spoke to the gathering. The Indian Prime Minister has one more engagement left in Paris, a meeting with top CEOs. After that, he will leave for Marseille. He's got a number of events lined up there, including the all-important bilateral. This is Modi's sixth trip as Prime Minister to France. And under President Macron, their engagement has only increased. They met 3 times in 2024 alone. This time, we are expecting some key deals to be signed on defense sales, on nuclear energy, and on bilateral trade. We are talking about a very expansive relationship. Defense is a key pillar of that. France is the second biggest arms supplier to India. From 2019 to 2023, they made up 33% of India's arms imports, which is just 3% less than Russia. Together, India and France have led multiple global campaigns, like the International Solar Alliance in 2015 and this Artificial Intelligence Summit today. On Sunday, we asked President Macron point blank, which country do you see as your most important partner in Asia? Listen to his response. Which country is France's most important partner in Asia?
Je dirais l'Inde.
India.
If we asked Prime Minister Modi the same question, he would probably say France. Now the question is, what makes this equation tick? Why are India and France so close? We can break it down into 4 main factors. Number 1 is worldview. France has always believed in a multipolar world, just like India has. They may be part of alliances like NATO, but they chart their own path. Look at what happened in 1966. France pulled out of NATO's military command structure. Why? Because the leadership wanted an independent policy for France. And even today that holds true. Both Macron and Modi speak about strategic autonomy. That is also why France supports India's permanent membership in the UN Security Council. That is also why Macron does not speak on India's domestic issues, something that other European powers regularly do. So that is one important factor, their shared worldview. Factor number 2 is the defense ties. If you exchange weapons, you have to play nice because defense trade binds a relationship. You're selling lethal weaponry to another nation. You must help in repairs and maintenance. You must also share technology sometimes. It creates a lasting bond built on trust and respect, something that normal trade cannot do. Factor number 3 is personal diplomacy. French leaders deserve a lot of credit here. In 1998, when India tested a nuclear bomb, most Western nations condemned it. They also imposed sanctions on India, but the French leadership did not do that. French presidents have also travelled extensively to India. 6 times they have been chief guests at our Republic Day. The latest being President Macron in 2024. It shows personal investment in India, something that Indian prime ministers have also reciprocated. And finally, the fourth factor, the alignment of interests. Unlike other European countries, France is an Indo-Pacific power. They have an island called Reunion in the Indian Ocean. They also have overseas territories in the Pacific, like New Caledonia and French Polynesia. So France shares India's concerns about the Indo-Pacific, not as a matter of principle, but as a result of physical presence in the region. All these factors make this a special partnership. In geopolitics, there is nothing called a perfect relationship though, but India and France have come pretty close. So Prime Minister Modi has a packed schedule in Paris, but he's all set to take this hustle out of the capital and into one of France's most bustling cities. He's travelling to Marseille tonight. This is a historic city in the south of France, and the Indian Prime Minister has a number of events lined up there, starting with the crucial bilateral talks with President Macron, followed by a visit to a war cemetery to pay tribute to Indian soldiers who fought in World War I, after which he will also inaugurate India's second diplomatic mission in France. Now, these are all major diplomatic moves, but there's more here than meets the eye, because Marseille is a strategic gateway for India, for technology, for trade, for energy, and for the economy. Our next report tells you why Marseille matters.
This is Marseille, located in the south of France, on the Mediterranean coast. This is the oldest city in the country. It's the crossing point between mainland France and the sea. For the Greek settlers who founded the port city around 600 BC, this was the land they stepped on when they arrived. And tonight, that's where India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be. After a packed schedule in Paris, Prime Minister Modi has a number of events lined up in Marseille, starting with the all-important bilateral between the two premiers. Talks on innovation, defense, nuclear energy and bilateral trade seem to be on the cards for PM Modi and French President Emmanuel Macron. On Wednesday, the two leaders will visit the Marseille War Cemetery. You see, Marseille was the base of the Indian troops in France during the First World War. The Marseille War Cemetery has an Indian memorial to honor the fallen soldiers. And that's where the two leaders will pay tribute to the sacrifices made by Indian soldiers. Following this, they will inaugurate a new Indian consulate in Marseille. And this is a major diplomatic move for a number of reasons. This will be the first Indian consulate in France, and India's second diplomatic mission in the country after the embassy in Paris. This is important for practical reasons, because the consulate will cater to the growing Indian diaspora in France. It will improve efficiency by reducing the need for journeys to the French capital for consular work, and provide assistance to Indian businesses increasing their footprint in France. This move is crucial for strategic reasons as well. It's a symbol of New Delhi's expanding global diplomatic presence, and another sign of strengthened bilateral ties with France. Post the inauguration of the consulate, the two leaders will visit the International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor, or ITER, close to Marseille. This is a major fusion technology project. It aims to create energy through a fusion process, and India is an active participant in the project. But coming back to Marseille, why does a trip to the port city matter? Because this historic city is of strategic importance to France and by proxy, India. Marseille is one of France's busiest cities. Each day, cruise ships dock here. Masses of freight flow into the city from here. The dock spills tourists into the city, and fishing fleets go about their day feeding France right from here. This city is a reminder of Marseille's global past as a trade hub, and this is rooted in its present. This is the biggest port in France, and the third biggest in the Mediterranean. Plus, Marseille's location makes it a key gateway for trade between India and France. In fact, it's one of the entry points for the India-Middle East Economic Corridor, which has been billed a passage of possibilities. It envisages vast road, rail and shipping networks connecting India's west coast to Europe and the US via West Asia. The aim is to boost integration among global players, to enhance supply chains, and this promises economic and security gains. So talks on the corridor are high on the agenda for India. What's more, Marseille is also a strategic telecommunications connection hub. It is not only a gateway for trade, but also links submarine cables from Europe to Africa, West Asia, and Asia. These cables carry 99% of the world's data traffic. Traditionally, ties between India and France have remained in the realm of defense or security. But as they expand into crucial areas of tech innovation, renewable energy, and supply chain partnership, Marseille remains key to Prime Minister Modi's visit to France and New Delhi's growing diplomatic footprint.
Meanwhile, the AI summit has been rocked by politics, which I guess was to be expected. More than 100 countries are participating. All of them have AI ambitions, so forging a consensus was always going to be hard. Even harder than the last two summits. In 2023 and 2024, the US was leading the AI revolution. This time, there are more players though. You've got DeepSeek from China, you've got Mistral from Europe. Even India wants an AI model within the next 10 months. So clearly, different priorities. And all eyes are on the joint statement. Which countries will sign on and which countries will not? Well, two big names are off the table, the US and the UK. Both President Trump and Prime Minister Keir Starmer are not here in Paris, and that in itself is a message to France. Apparently, the US had issues with the draft statement. It talks about sustainable and green AI, and that is something that Trump is not a fan of. You see, America is home to 33% of all data centers in the world. They are key to building AI models, but most of these centers run on oil and gas. Their emissions are off the chart. Globally, data centers produce 2.5 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide, which is equal to Russia's total emissions every year. So Macron is pushing for green AI. He wants nuclear or renewable energy to power data centers, and Donald Trump opposes this. As for the UK, their problem is not clear yet. Reports say they're simply following Trump's lead. French President Macron, though, is not backing down. He took a swipe at Trump yesterday. He said Trump may want to drill, baby, drill, but he wants to plug, baby, plug. Listen to this.
Last year, we exported 90 terawatt-hour. 90. Which means we can localize a lot of data centers on top of what we need in terms of electricity for our own companies, our own households. So it's very important in this world where I have a good friend in the other part of the ocean saying, drill, baby, drill. Here, there is no need to drill. It's just plug, baby, plug. Electricity is available. You can plug, it's ready.
And what about India? Prime Minister Modi is co-chairing the summit. So what are India's priorities? Broadly speaking, there are three areas: equity, inclusiveness, and ethics. India wants to speak for the global south because right now no one is doing that. AI is being developed, used and deployed mostly in the West, and India wants to change that. It wants to ensure global south countries benefit from this new technology. Even France shares this goal, which is why Macron invited Modi to co-chair the summit. He sees the value in global south nations. But here's the problem. How many of these ideas will make it to the joint statement? Probably very few. So we've drawn up a list of proposals, things we believe should be a priority here in Paris. Number one, do not walk away from regulation. I know it's attractive right now. China and America are racing ahead in the AI game, so no one wants to be left behind. Therefore, no one wants regulation. But in the long run, this is going to be dangerous. We need binding checks on AI companies and models. Reports say the joint statement will not address that. Instead, it will pledge an open, multi-stakeholder approach, which experts call meaningless. Reports also say that the statement will drop warnings on AI in cybersecurity and disinformation. Again, these are non-negotiable. Which brings us to priority number 2, green AI. You've got many tactics to choose from. You could mandate 100% green energy in upcoming data centers. You could ban building of oil-run centers. You could also set a deadline to phase out fossil fuels. You could cap energy use at data centers. One version of this should be adopted. A version that is acceptable to all nations. And I know that President Macron is pushing for nuclear energy, and it's certainly better than fossil fuels, but it's not practical for every country at the moment. Nuclear energy has its own set of dangers. So we need to be mindful of that. Next is priority number 3, focus on real-world applications. For example, healthcare. AI models can be trained on health data. They can detect and even predict diseases based on symptoms. They may catch something that your doctor misses. So AI can revolutionize healthcare. We know that. We are not saying replace doctors with AI models. We are saying integrate and use AI to boost the doctor's productivity. This will especially be useful in poorer countries which lack adequate number of doctors. And then we have the 4th priority, democratizing AI. Right now, a handful of AI companies are calling the shots. Your Googles, Metas, and OpenAIs of the world. It's almost like an AI oligarchy. And it's heading the same way as social media. Now, we need to ensure that that does not happen. We need startups and smaller innovators to come forward. How do you do that? By forcing governments to take on big roles. We can take ideas from different countries. For example, China's focus on open source models. It has prompted other firms to take note. Even OpenAI is now making an open source model. From India, we can take the sharing approach. In India, the government is setting up a common computing facility. It is open to all developers, to all startups. The government has also created a public data set. Again, accessible to developers. So we need to draw ideas from different places. We must make the AI landscape more competitive and more inclusive. And that brings us to the final priority that we are pitching. Create a forum to share AI data sets and strategies. If not, certain areas will lag behind. Take Africa, for example. African nations rank at the bottom of AI readiness tables. Only a tiny fraction of African data is used to train AI models. To correct this, we need global cooperation. We need a place to share national data sets. And these are just the 5 priorities that we wanted to highlight today. Frankly, the most important one is political. We need to view these AI summits differently. Yes, there is geopolitics involved, but if we focus too much on the geopolitics, we will miss out on the actual benefits. After all, isn't that the point of technology? To better human lives. These summits need to put humans at the center of their agenda, not politics or tech races. Our next story is about a clash in the tech world. 2 tech tycoons are butting heads again. It's round 247 of Elon Musk versus Sam Altman. The world's richest man versus the artificial intelligence golden boy. This time, Musk has made a bid. A $97.4 billion bid to buy OpenAI, or rather the non-profit entity that technically controls Sam Altman's for-profit business. And it's a smart move. I'll get into why in a moment, but first let's look at the reaction from Sam Altman. He has rejected the offer, and then he took a swipe at Elon Musk. Sam Altman offered to buy Twitter from Musk for $9.74 billion, which is a tenth of what Musk is offering for OpenAI, and less than a quarter of what Musk paid for Twitter back in 2022. So it's basically an insult. Sam Altman is suggesting that Musk has driven Twitter's value to the ground. And how did Musk respond to this slight? With one word, swindler. But the petty insults did not end there. Musk later put up this video with the caption, Scam Altman. Legendary wordplay, no doubt. I'm certain that preschoolers everywhere are in awe of the Tesla man. But childish name-calling aside, the video shows Sam Altman at a US Senate hearing. This is from back in 2023, May 2023. Altman is heard saying that he barely makes any money and he has no equity in OpenAI. It was a gotcha moment for Elon Musk, except that it wasn't. Altman really does not hold equity in OpenAI, not directly, despite being the face of artificial intelligence. During that same hearing, a US senator told Sam Altman to get a lawyer because even the senator believed that Altman deserves a cut. So Musk posting that video is strange. He basically wants to show that Sam Altman is not some penniless pauper, that he's a liar who's looking to make a massive profit by changing OpenAI into a for-profit company, and Musk is the selfless billionaire angel who will stop him. Musk actually issued the following statement. He said, and I'm quoting, "It is time for OpenAI to return to the open source, safety-focused force for good that it once was. We will make sure that happens." Yes, it is as absurd as it sounds. Elon Musk thinks that someone should not be allowed to profit from their work. The richest man in history wants a rival to be a quote-unquote force for good instead of a for-profit company. You can't really make this up. It's also hard to believe because Musk allegedly wanted to make OpenAI for profit himself. Back in 2017, 2018, remember, Elon Musk co-founded OpenAI in 2015, but he parted ways 3 years later, apparently because he was not going to be given control of the company. So perhaps it's best not to take the Savior Act too seriously, and instead look at what Musk is actually trying to do here, because he's made a smart move. Musk gathered a consortium of investors led by his own AI startup, xAI. The group has made a $97.4 billion acquisition bid, not for Sam Altman's for-profit entity, but for the parent company, which is the non-profit called OpenAI Inc. Now, this complicates things for Sam Altman. He wanted to spin off his for-profit business. The parent company would have had a stake in it. It wouldn't be cut off completely, but it would have a smaller share of the pie. Now, Musk is offering to buy that parent company, and that too for $97.4 billion, which means Sam Altman will have to match or exceed that offer. He will have to offer his non-profit parent company a larger slice of the pie. Let me explain with an example. During the last funding round, OpenAI was valued at $157 billion. So to match the offer from Musk, Sam Altman would have to give the non-profit 98 out of $157 billion, effectively 2/3 of the new for-profit entity, just to match the offer. And that would mean that he's effectively ceding control. And you see how this derails his plan. Sam Altman was gearing up for a new funding round led by the SoftBank Group. It was set to increase OpenAI's valuation to $300 billion, and SoftBank is not doing it for free, of course. They want a cut too. Now they know that they'll have to share most of the pie with a non-profit. Will SoftBank still be keen to fund Sam Altman? This is the significance of Elon Musk's offer. He may have potentially scuppered Altman's for-profit plan. Let's see how Sam Altman recovers from this. Now let's shift our focus to West Asia, to the situation in Gaza. The ceasefire in Gaza is on the verge of collapse. Yesterday, Hamas decided to delay the release of Israeli hostages. It said that Israel was violating the terms of the ceasefire by killing Palestinians and withholding aid. Israel responded by saying that Hamas was violating the ceasefire by delaying the release of hostages. Israel has ordered its military to prepare for, and I'm quoting, any possible scenario in Gaza. It's already a powder keg. One wrong move could set off another round of fighting, and this is when US President Donald Trump decided to wade in. He said Hamas should release all the remaining Israeli hostages by midday Saturday, or Israel should cancel the ceasefire, and I'm quoting again, let hell break out. Our next report has the details.
It hasn't even been a month since the Gaza ceasefire came into effect. But it's already on the verge of crumbling. Yesterday, Hamas said it would delay the release of the next batch of Israeli hostages. The spokesperson for Hamas's armed wing made the statement. He said that the captives will remain in place until the occupying entity complies with past obligations and compensates retroactively. Hamas still holds dozens of Israeli hostages, people that it captured on October 7, 2023. It has released 21 Israelis so far, since the truce came into effect on January 19th. Hamas was scheduled to release 3 more this Saturday, but the group said it is delaying their release because of Israeli violations of the truce deal. A number of Palestinians have been killed even after the ceasefire came into effect. Reports say that a child was shot dead just yesterday. There have been multiple incidents of Israeli forces still killing Gazans sporadically. Hamas also says that Israel is slowing down the humanitarian aid that is meant to enter Gaza. The group is using this as a justification to delay the release of the 3 hostages on Saturday. But they reportedly said that the door remains open. They will go ahead with the release of the 3 hostages if Israel complies with its obligations under the ceasefire deal. Israel, on the other hand, has called Hamas's delay an outright violation of the ceasefire. Their defense minister, Israel Katz, has mobilized the military. He has put the IDF on the highest level of alert and told them to prepare for any possible scenario. It's a tense situation. The hostage release is at risk. More Palestinian lives are also on the line. At this delicate juncture, the cooler heads need to prevail. However, US President Donald Trump seems to have had enough. He's tired of waiting.
Well, I would say this, and I'm going to let that be because that's Israel's decision, but as far as I'm concerned, if all of the hostages aren't returned by Saturday at 12 o'clock, I think it's an appropriate time. I would say cancel it and all bets are off. And let hell break out. I'd say they ought to be returned by 12 o'clock on Saturday, and if they're not returned, all of them, not in drips and drabs, not 2 and 1 and 3 and 4 and 2. Saturday at 12 o'clock, and after that, I would say all hell is going to break out.
It looks like Trump is urging Israel to issue an ultimatum. He says that they shouldn't wait around anymore. They shouldn't accept the hostage release in batches. Trump wants Israel to demand the release of all the hostages at once, or let hell break out. Trump was quick to clarify that this was his personal opinion, not Israel's stance.
I'm speaking for myself. Israel can override it, but from myself, Saturday at 12 o'clock, and if they're not here, all hell is going to break out.
What happens when it hits 12 noon on Saturday? What happens to any hostages still in Gaza? Will they be sacrificed just to teach Hamas a lesson? It hasn't even been a month since the truce came about. The guns still haven't fallen silent completely. Are Trump and Israel really willing to go back so soon? Or should more time be given for diplomacy to prevail?
Always take 2 things when you leave home: your phone and your wallet. That's what we have been hearing for years. But in India, even if you forget your wallet, it's mostly fine because your phone has UPI. India's homegrown digital payment system. Almost every Indian uses UPI nowadays. You take out your phone, you scan the QR code, and you transfer the money. India logs around 440 million UPI transactions every day. And guess what? You can use it in France too. France is the first European country to adopt UPI, so we decided to see how it works. Where in Paris can you use UPI? Take a look. Picture this. You've just landed in Paris. You're excited to see the Eiffel Tower. But first, you need tickets. So there are 2 options. You either search for a money exchange counter, fumbling for some cash, or you use your card, getting hit by foreign transaction fees. Sounds like a lot of trouble. But not anymore. Because now, for the first time ever, you can simply pull out your phone, scan a QR code, and pay using the good old UPI, just like you would back home in India. And I'm about to try it out myself. So let's buy a ticket to go and see the Eiffel Tower. The process is quite simple. I have my Eiffel Tower ticket portal open here, and there is a UPI QR code right on the screen. All I have to do is open my banking app, scan it, and just like that, I have bought a ticket to see this iconic symbol of Paris. No forex, no card fees, and no additional charges. UPI, we know, has become a part of daily life in India, but it does feel a bit surreal to be using it here. France is the first European country to adopt UPI. India's Unified Payments Interface Service. The deal was initially signed in 2022. It was between the NPCI, the National Payments Corporation of India, and Lyra, France's fast and secure online payment system. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi talked about it during his 2023 visit to France.
फ्रांस में भारत के यूपीआई के उपयोग को लेकर भी समझौता हो गया है। अब मैं तो समझौता करके चला जाऊंगा, आगे बढ़ाने का काम आपका है। साथियों, आने वाले दिनों में इसकी शुरुआत आईफेल टावर से की जाएगी।
In February 2024, the service went live, with the Eiffel Tower being the first merchant. The choice makes perfect sense. The Eiffel Tower is the world's most visited monument. It welcomes 6 to 7 million visitors every year. Indians make up the second largest group of international visitors. With UPI, things have become a lot easier for them. And it's not just the Eiffel Tower. UPI is now accepted at Galeries Lafayette, one of the biggest shopping destinations in Paris. Again, picture this. You walk into your favorite store, pick up a bag or a dress, and pay using UPI. No card, no cash, just a simple scan. This is not just about convenience. It's a massive leap for India-France relations. The adoption of UPI shows the confidence France has in India's digital ecosystem. It's also a huge moment for the fintech sector back home. It proves their technology is good enough to be adopted anywhere in the world. And it's not just stopping with France. More and more European countries want to adopt UPI. Years ago, Western tech was seen as the gold standard. But India has come leaps and bounds in the last decade. Digital finance is one area where India can rival and perhaps outperform Western technology. As of today, 7 foreign countries use the UPI system. For Indian travelers, this is all about convenience. But for other countries, especially in the global south, this is a template. UPI can help them bridge the financial divide, just like it did in India. Meanwhile, back home, India has been on a bit of a spending spree. India's central bank, to be specific, that's the RBI, the Reserve Bank of India, it has been splurging on gold. The RBI reportedly bought 72.6 metric tons of gold. This was in the calendar year 2024. The Reserve Bank of India increased India's existing gold stockpile from about 803 tons to over 876 tons of gold. What stands out here is not just the quantity, it's also the accelerated pace of acquisition. The RBI bought about 18 tons of gold in 2023, 18 tons, and then 72 tons in 2024. That means the gold purchases went up 4-fold. The obvious question then is why? Why is India hoarding so much gold? What does the RBI plan to do with all that bullion? An MP, a member of parliament, asked Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman this question in parliament. He basically asked if there was some hidden reason for this, for why they're buying so much gold. Perhaps de-dollarization. Is that the reason? Now, for those of you who don't know, de-dollarization is the act of moving away from the US dollar for international trade. For the most part, everyone trades in the dollar. We pay for most imports via USD. And this has been the global norm since 1944. And this gives the US dollar a lot of power and influence. Whenever the dollar's value changes, it affects the balance of trade everywhere in the world. If the dollar's value goes up, imports become more expensive. Even when the trade does not involve the US, imports become expensive. So to insulate bilateral trade from dollar shocks, some countries have been looking at local currency agreements, cutting the US dollar out of the picture altogether. And that is de-dollarization in a nutshell. Now, coming back to the Indian MP's question, he effectively asked if India was planning to settle trade payments in gold instead of US dollars. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman shot this idea down. She said the RBI's gold hoarding did not have anything to do with de-dollarization. Instead, it was to diversify Indian reserves. Again, let's try to understand this. Most international trade takes place in US dollars, like we just said. So every country keeps a stash to settle bills. This is known as a foreign exchange reserve or forex reserve. Now, most of this reserve is made up of US dollars. But you know what they say about putting all your eggs in one basket? It's not smart to have your entire reserve made up of USD, which is why the RBI keeps multiple foreign currencies. They also have the euro, the British pound, the Japanese yen, you name it. The Indian Central Bank has it. The RBI keeps all of them in varying quantities to ensure that it has a diverse portfolio. And gold is part of this balanced portfolio as well. And this has come in very handy lately. Think about the turmoil in the currency markets. Every time US President Donald Trump talks about tariffs, the value of the dollar increases. But almost all other currencies crash. Their value changes are not exactly proportional. So the RBI's overall currency portfolio loses value, and it would be worse if it weren't for the gold. Gold is considered a safe haven. So whenever there is instability in the market, people start buying gold. This is true for the currency market as well. And amid all of this, Trump tariff turmoil, people are investing in gold. So the yellow metal's value keeps rising. Since the Reserve Bank of India is hoarding gold, it has managed to keep the value of its forex reserves stable despite all the volatility in the currency markets. And that is part of the reason why India is upping the gold intake. It makes sense to have a safe haven investment. Now, the RBI began buying gold aggressively in 2017 and it really leaned on the metal back in 2021 amid all the Wuhan virus chaos. Last year's gold purchase was still less than in 2021. But it's in keeping with the trend. When the world seems chaotic, the RBI goes for gold. And with Donald Trump in the White House, chaos is always around the corner. Raids, arrests, deportation flights. And no, I'm not talking about the United States. This story is about the UK, which seems to have taken a leaf out of US President Donald Trump's book. A UK-wide deportation blitz is underway. The government is cracking down on illegal immigrants. There are widespread raids and arrests at warehouses, car washes, vape shops and restaurants. In fact, it was a record-breaking January for the immigrant enforcement there. They raided 828 premises, including an Indian restaurant, where 7 people were arrested and 4 were detained. What does this mean for the country and the illegal immigrants there? Why are they being deported in droves now, and how many Indians are living in the UK illegally? Our next report tells you.
Illegal immigrants being taken off a bus, made to climb the stairs of a plane with hands chained to the waist, all set to be deported to their country of origin. No, this video is not from the United States. In a first, it has been posted by the UK government in a declaration of the so-called UK-wide blitz. That's what it's being called. Because in classic Trump fashion, with raids, arrests and deportations, the Labour Party is doubling down to curb illegal immigration and cracking down on illegal migrants in Britain. In fact, this drive broke records in January. The immigration enforcement teams reportedly raided 828 premises, including warehouses, car washes, vape shops, nail bars and restaurants, which includes an Indian restaurant where 7 people were arrested and 4 were detained. Overall, the raid saw a 48% rise compared to previous January, and they led to 609 arrests, marking a 73% increase from the previous year. And while the drive has been amped up in recent weeks, it has been underway for some time now. The Starmer government has returned nearly 19,000 migrants living illegally in the United Kingdom to their countries of origin in Africa, Asia, Europe and South America. This includes as many as 118 Indians who were deported last year, second only to Albanians. And this number is not surprising. After all, nearly 745,000 illegal migrants are currently in the United Kingdom, out of which around 100,000 are Indians. But what's behind the sudden boost in taking action against illegal immigrants? According to the Home Secretary,
for far too long, employers have been able to take on and exploit illegal migrants, and too many people have been able to arrive and work illegally with no enforcement action ever taken.
But experts claim that there's more to the story. The Starmer government is under intense scrutiny over its efforts, or the lack thereof, to secure the British border from illegal immigration. And now they seem to be actively working on it. But critics have slammed the government over this, calling these performative tactics, because the timing of the crackdown moves is crucial. This week, the Labour Party's Border Security, Asylum and Immigration Bill is set to be discussed in Parliament. The goal is to quote-unquote smash the criminal gangs because it will grant law enforcement additional powers to take action against organised crime gangs, which include seizing mobile phones from people who enter the country illegally. But critics call it a rash move via a weak bill that won't stop the boats, followed by a hasty crackdown with deportations. But maybe Starmer doesn't care as long as it helps with desperate image building in desperate times.
So this is really a philosophy of getting everybody.
integrity.
Hello and welcome to the late night edition with me, Ayushman Singh Jamwal. Our top story: Prime Minister Narendra Modi met US Vice President